Okay, we ready? We good?
Let's do it.
Our Hungarian Grand Prix.
F1 driver ratings.
It is F1 driver ratings, the last one before we go on summer break, where we all just stop grading drivers' performances for 3 weeks, and then we come back kicking as we head into it's not exactly halves, is it? It's slightly less, 10 races to go. But I'm looking forward to this one, Tommy. Ready to give our opinions and go from there.
You say no more until we do our mid-season drive ratings, which is literally the next...
Technically, we're not actually doing those.
They will be the average maths. Again.
That's past selves. That's our past selves that have already been roasted for whatever we've said.
Exactly.
So technically, no one can say anything bad now because they've already said it before.
Yeah, just blame the maths.
Yeah. Have a go at maths whilst you're at it. Old man yells at cloud kind of vibes. So let's get straight into it, shall we? Let's not mess around and begin with Gabriele Bortoleto. Started the race in 7th, finished 6th. Well, we're starting today with a wonderful positive grade of a 10 out of 10 for Gabriele Bortoleto. Phenomenal drive to not only score massive points, but an amazing qualifying as well. That's what we discussed before, was like, okay, we've seen some good qualifyings, but we need to see that progress into a big points finish. And Hungary, of course, I mean, like with most tracks, difficult to overtake. So the fact that he put himself in a good quali position and also made the right strategy call was perfect for him. You know, at the end, he wasn't exactly holding off people behind. Stroll was a couple of seconds further back, and it wasn't like he had, it wasn't the Bortoleto train all the way back to 20th. He absolutely deserved that, and it's a 10.
Absolutely, 10 out of 10. Easy grade to start off. We said, didn't we, when Hülkenberg scored a podium for Sauber and they got all these great results, so we're going to have to maybe change our perception. But there's no way, even with the Sauber now being a better car, that it's worthy of finishing a 6th place without a fantastic drive from a rookie as well, which we absolutely need to remember. From a rookie whose teammate is one of the best performing drivers of the year and a very, very experienced driver, and one that's very highly rated. So, it's not clearly just the Sauber, because he qualified 7th while his teammate was 18th, and then even made up a position in the race with a great start, overtaking Stroll. So just really glad he's had that kind of breakthrough drive now where he's got big points on the board, and excited. He's probably going to be one of the drivers that wish the summer break didn't happen, because he's got
exactly
great momentum.
What he said. That's what he said. He wants to keep driving. That rookie energy, whereas the more experienced drivers are like, I'm going on holiday. I'll be back. I'll be back. The fans, no surprise, gave him a 10 as well. This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Now you might be thinking, Matt, what does a VPN have to do with Formula One? Well, it can help more than you think. Not only does it keep you safer online, but also unlocks content that's not available in your country, like watching your favourite sport on international broadcasters, or finally accessing that weird documentary you've been eyeing up on Netflix Australia. Surfshark lets you change your virtual location with a click of a button, meaning you can browse privately, avoid trackers, and dodge creepy targeted ads. Because yes, I did talk about air fryers once. It doesn't mean that I need 15 ads a day. You can use Surfshark across unlimited devices. It's super easy to use, and it comes with 24/7 support just in case you need any assistance. Right now you can try Surfshark risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to surfshark.com/P1 or use code P1 at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Nico Hülkenberg started the race in 18th, finished 13th.
I've gone for a 5 for Nico Hülkenberg. Disappointing race from him as the experienced driver. Qualifying was terrible, has to be said, compared to his teammate again. Really disappointing, and did make actually a bit of progress thanks to the undercut of Dreams, but of course had that penalty as well through the false start, which I wouldn't class it as like an insane error that he had that start. It was just kind of rolled forward a little bit. Didn't even know it had happened himself. But still a disappointing weekend for Hülkenberg, so I've gone for a 5.
I've also gone for a 5 out of 10 for Nico Hülkenberg. A pretty anonymous weekend, it has to be said. I the penalty for the full start, you watch the replay and it didn't really look like he'd left his grid box, but he must have not left much of a margin between his tyres and the sensor, and just the jolt of sort of moving into gear has caused him to get a penalty. And then, we thought maybe Hulkenberg last the first challenge was on when he was doing the undercut and lapping about 3 seconds a lap quicker than the train of cars ahead of him, but still did a pretty good job to get back up to 13th. So it's still a 5 because his teammate showed that there was a lot more in the car available. For Nico, I will leave you alone now for the flop. I promise. I don't promise. Let's see what happens in a few weeks' time. But I'm sorry, Hulk. It's all my fault. The fans gave him a 5 as well. Alex Albon started the race in 19th, finished 15th. I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Alexander Albon. I feel as though Williams are struggling quite a bit, especially around this circuit. He said he came into the weekend quite optimistic, and then essentially just kind of got exposed around this track for the weaknesses of their car, and the fact that Sainz and Albon were both equally having reasonable struggles. I've obviously factored into the grades, so I'm sort of seeing Williams as a maybe an 8th fastest team, 9th fastest team at the moment, especially around these kind of tracks. Still gone for a 5 because I don't think there was much more that they... Well, then people are like, why do you give him a 10? You know what I mean? There's not much more he can do with his current car, but I can't give him any higher than that for a 19th back row start when his teammate was up in 13th. There was still a little bit more to be gained, and I've just gone for a 5.
Yeah, I've gone for a 5 as well for Alex Albon. Very middle of the road race. Of course, qualifying was very poor, has to be said, but made up for it in the race somewhat to get a whopping 15th. But when all the people are, there's barely any retirement. I think it was only Behrman, wasn't it, that retired. It's going to be very difficult to score points at Hungary from that position. So, not the best weekend for Williams. They just did not look quick here.
If you've been listening to the podcast recently, you would have heard that we were interviewing Alex Albon for the podcast. There's a few episodes coming very soon, which I'm very excited for you to hear. We were buzzing off of it because I think it was a fantastic recording. And he actually made a joke halfway through when I think I mentioned, do you feel like you don't get the plaudits sometimes when you've had an amazing race, you finish 16th, but it's a perfect
no one
pinpoint,
would know,
just an amazing race from their point of view, but they just had nothing left in the tank. And he was like, yeah, it does happen. And then you go and look at Matt and Tommy's ratings, and they've given you a 4. With that being said, it's a 10 out of 10 for Alex Albon for a P15. Congratulations. Yeah. The fans gave Alex a 5. Carlos Sainz started the race in 13th, finished 14th.
I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. Sorry, Alex, if you're listening. But your teammate's got a high grade. No, joking. He qualified higher, of course.
Well, you're not joking, actually.
No, I'm not joking. It is a 6.
Mate, you called him out.
Yeah, exactly. It is literally a 6 for Carlos. Look, I know they finished together on the road, but Carlos put the car in P13. He was actually 6/10 quicker than Albon in qualifying, which is a big margin, and would have had another place higher if he hadn't have been involved in that incident with Gasly, which wasn't his fault, that allowed Hulkenberg through. So I can't give them the same grade. I have to give Carlos a higher grade, so I've gone for a 6.
I agree. I've gone for a 6 as well. Carlos was the slightly better performer this weekend, as you say, in qualifying, quite massively outperforming Albon on Saturday. And then, in the race, there wasn't much that the Williams had in terms of pace, but I agree. He would have beaten Hulkenberg, and there's a massive 22-odd second gap between Hulkenberg and Hamilton, so it would have been a P13 finish for Carlos had it not been for the contact with Gasly. I've gone for a 6 because a slight nod to the fact that he did better than his teammate. The fans don't want to give that nod. 5 out of 10. Isaac Hadjar started the race in 10th, finished 11th. I have gone for a 6 out of 10 for Isaac Hadjar. Off the back of a few races where it is very much like what could have been. He's had moments with his car obviously not being particularly, or like in Spa, for example, he picked up damage, didn't he, and lost a lot of time there. In this one as well, just he even said after the race that the weekend just felt so unfair because the other car scored points. I love that. Not even Liam Lawson, just the other car. When we've been on it the whole weekend, and it seems like it's we know that there's potential of this Racing Bull car, and for me, Lawson finishing 8th, not far off of beating Bortoleto and Stroll. But to me, the Racing Bulls very much does seem like that car that is as good, if not slightly better, than what the Astons and the Saubers show. That's just my opinion. But that Racing Bulls has been great from pretty much the first round of the season. And you've got two pretty young rookies, inexperienced drivers in the car, and maybe just not getting as much as he'd want to get out of the car, especially this weekend for Hadjar. But I've gone for a 6 because you just narrowly missed out on a points finish when only one driver retired.
Indeed, I've gone for a 6 as well. Very close to points, but yeah, his form certainly hasn't fallen off. He's just not hitting those same heights that we saw right at the start, where he was quite rightfully being spoken about as a promising rookie, but maybe even the top rookie of the season. And there's much talk of, Red Bull need to get him in the car, but we don't want to promote him too early and stuff. And since then, he's kind of been on a few runs, so maybe he's deliberately holding back to not get promoted.
Maybe that's the case. The fans gave him a 6 as well. Liam Lawson started the race in 9th, finished 8th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Liam Lawson. I think he's doing a great job at the moment, actually, Liam Lawson. He's really found some confidence again. This is like a couple of the races recently. This is more like what I thought would happen when he got into that Racing Bulls and be able to deliver good performances and be a lot more comfortable. And took him to be demoted to beat Max Verstappen on the road. But he did and held him off. And if you ever needed proof that Red Bull have basically thrown in the towel with the championship, Liam Lawson basically not letting Max through for an extra point shows that it's done.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 as well for Lawson. As I mentioned, it didn't beat Alonso, Bortoleto and Stroll ahead. That's down to qualifying. Similarly, like his teammate, it's very much a quali championship as we know this year. But that being said, he has been quietly going about his way and scoring points in consecutive races, and it's great to see for Lawson. The fact that not only is he performing pretty well now, but to have brought himself back from the depths of despair that must have been those first few races of the year at Red Bull it's not an easy thing to do. You have to have a serious amount of inner mental strength, and fair play to Lawson for doing that, and I hope he continues going from strength to strength. The fans gave him an 8 as well. We're all in agreement. How lovely. Ollie Behrman started the race in 11th, did not finish. It's going to be a 5 out of 10 for Ollie Behrman, who, of course, was trying to break the record, and continue his streak of P11s. But sadly, he ran wide at some point, damaged his car quite drastically, even though not really sure when that happened, and then just sort of fell away. So it's hard to give him any higher than that when clearly it was. I don't think it was to do with the gravel. That was the understanding that it wasn't to do with the gravel that had been kicked up. It was something else. But he fell away, and sad for Ollie Behrman because could have scored a point, could have scored 2 if things had gone his way, but sadly it didn't.
I have gone for a 4 out of 10 for Ollie Behrman. I think he, again, another race where he showed great potential. Great qualifying compared to his teammate, but sadly for him, this is just kind of what has seemed to happen quite a lot to him, of making errors here and there, and him going off and damaging his floor, which meant he eventually retired. And I actually even saw a quote from his team principal. I only read it, so I don't know how it came across, but basically alluding to the fact that it happened kind of 3 times during the weekend that he went off and damaged the floor. Whether that was more just him kind of mentioning it or being a bit like, we really need to stop this happening. But yeah, he's got such great potential, and I'd really like to see him get, because I can see him that there'll be one race this year where he gets that result, like a Bortoleto, where you go, all right, this is his breakthrough now. But at the moment, it's just not happening for him.
Okay, so you're grading him a little bit harsher because you're deeming it like
the damage of DNF
has caused him to DNF, when we don't actually fully know the extent of which he has damaged the car and how much it was his fault. That's why I've gone slightly more lenient with a 5, because of the fact that it was a pretty reasonable weekend up until that point compared to his teammate. The fans gave him a 5 as well. Esteban Ocon started the race in 17th, finished 16th.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 as well for Esteban Ocon. All really undone in qualifying. Disappointing from Ocon because, of course, he won here, didn't he, in 2021. It's a track that he's gone well at, but certainly didn't this weekend. And the fact that he qualified poorly always puts you on the back foot. Difficult weekend for Ocon.
I've gone for a 4 as well for Ocon. It's such a shame. I really want to see him just get a few more good qualies in. It's Haas are such a difficult team to read at the moment. But for Ocon, a very anonymous weekend. Said that he was sort of thinking about whether a different strategy was the way to go. He was being passed by both Williams drivers towards the end of the race, and it just, the Haas just was not particularly good this weekend, although Behrman could have scraped a point even had it not been for damage as well.
It's mad to think Ocon is top 10 in the championship.
Is he still?
And it just shows that those races where he has got qualifying right, he's bagged really big points, like with things like P5s and stuff.
Or just done a blinder of a strategy and started nowhere near the top 10.
Yeah, exactly. But it is
I guess
crazy,
it literally only in Spa they got a double points finish in the sprint, didn't they?
Yeah, and he finished, and Ocon was 5th there. So they've got big points on the board. It's a strange season. Haas are having a really weird season.
Very strange indeed. The fans gave him a 4. Franco Colapinto started the race in 14th, finished 18th. Franco. I'm going to go for because it was quite a difficult race for Colapinto. For some reasons, his own fault, other reasons not. I'm going to go for a 5 out of 10 for Franco. I think he showed some sort of potential, but sadly lost almost all of that at the start by dropping 4 positions. And then, he had 2 7+ second pit stops. Which of course screws his race even more. But at the same time, you can't be undoing all of your work on lap 1 and then expecting to get any kind of good result at the Hungarian Grand Prix, of all the tracks. So it's a shame because there have been glimmers of potential. But okay, Franco out-qualifying Gasly, interesting. He still finished ahead of Gasly in the end, but that's because of Gasly's penalty. Just not a clean race at all from Alpine's side and Franco's pit stops, but he was never on for points.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Franco Colapinto. A great qualifying, has to be said. Up in 14th puts you in a great position at Hungary where it's difficult to overtake. But his race all went wrong at that start. And yes, he was unlucky in the pit stops and things, but it was all undone by a bad start. Then also made a mistake that let Gasly through at one point. Just difficult because qualifying should have been that moment where he could have got a good result. Still finished ahead of Gasly, of course, but one to forget still.
The fans gave Franco a 4. Pierre Gasly started the race in 16th, finished 19th.
I've gone for a 3 out of 10 for Pierre Gasly. A really, really poor weekend from Gasly. After we've been saying what a great job he's been doing in that Alpine and delivering results that shouldn't be where the Alpine we kind of think they are. This was one where just a complete weekend to forget. Really poor qualifying in the race. Got a penalty for contact with Sainz as well, which ended up, dropping him behind his teammate, and just a really, really poor weekend for Gasly.
I've also gone for a 3 out of 10 for Gasly. Yeah, completely out of sorts for Pierre. Didn't expect him to be out-qualified by Franco, considering the momentum he's had. on his side of the garage. And then, I have to downgrade him as well, as you mentioned, for the Sainz contact. It definitely was deserving of a penalty. And Alpine just need to control, alt, delete, and just remove any existence of memory of the Hungarian Grand Prix for them, because that was pretty awful indeed. Although they were fighting a Red Bull, so on paper that was a great race. If people have no context and just watched last
Alpine,
year,
they're living
Alpine have been fighting for the podium. The fans gave Pierre a 3. Lance Stroll started the race in 6th, finished 7th. I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. I think he is fully deserving of an excellent grade this weekend, to put in a brilliant qualifying and then to back it up as well with a 7th place. Yes, he didn't beat Fernando Alonso, but he also wasn't a million miles away from him at the end, around 8 seconds, I think it was, to Fernando. And obviously missed out with Bortoleto, but Aston Martin, you're having to rejig your brain to literally last time out in Spa, where they were on the back row of the grid. And then you come here and you go, what? What's going on? Has Adrian Newey literally just gone, no, that's not how we do it. That's how we do it. And all of a sudden it works. I don't think it's as easy as that. But Lance had a really good weekend, and I'm treating this similarly to if the 9th or 10th fastest team popped it in for some very good points. So well done, Lance.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. It's very close to a 9. I think he's done.
You better not be giving your GOAT 10 then. You better not be giving your GOAT 10.
We're about to find out.
Yeah.
Look, he, of course, finished behind his teammate. The potential of that car was 5th. 7th, of course, isn't bad, but it's still 2 places lower than it should be. A good performance, but got to downgrade him for being behind his teammate, and also the fact that he lost that place to Bortoleto as well.
Okie dokie, the fans agree with you. They've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. Fernando Alonso started the race in 5th, finished 5th.
I've gone for a 10 for Fernando. Of course I have. Why are you surprised?
I'm not surprised in the slightest.
He maximised everything in qualifying and the race. He managed to be 1/10 off pole position, which apparently is 5th these days. And then
didn't bring that about Lancer, did you? He was also 1/10 off pole.
He was, but he also finished 2 places behind Fernando.
No. I'm just saying. You're saying Fernando was 1/10 off pole. Like my guy Lance was also 1/10 off pole.
He was 1.2 actually.
I know why I said my guy Lance. I think it's the first time I said that.
But look, he drove an absolutely phenomenal race. Aston Martin looked good this weekend, and for him to just deliver the absolute maximum that he could get from that car at 44 years of age. We're having so many talks about other drivers up and down the grid. Certain Lewis Hamilton talking. There's so much conversation about, could it be age and stuff? And there's Fernando, rocking up to the Hungarian rig at 44 years old, and delivering an amazing result.
Planned combat. Love to see it from Fernando. I've also gone for a 10 out of 10 for Fernando. No surprise there. Absolute maximum out of the car. A phenomenal result. I put him as good surprise. I think I may even deserve 2 points for that in the main race podcast. But obviously we're Michael Massing this, and it's 37-all. But just brilliant to see. This is the Fernando Alonso I want to see. Like he hasn't got probably many years left in Formula One. We're being honest. So I need more of this. Sad. I'm sorry, mate. I mean, the fact that he's even in Formula One now
it's a miracle
ridiculous.
itself, isn't it?
So, so just be grateful. But yeah, it's absolutely a 10 out of 10 performance. Nothing to downgrade him on. The fans gave him a 10 as well. Kimi Antonelli started the race in 15th, finished 10th. Kimi Antonelli is receiving a 5 out of 10 from me. He's still nowhere near where he needs to be at the moment. His qualifying was obviously a disaster. To make it back up to 10th, yeah, fair enough. Decent drive around Hungary to make up those positions, but these driver ratings are based on, they're not based on the fact that he's gained 5 positions in the race. It's based on a weekend performance, and Mercedes were the second fastest car, obviously with Leclerc's issues, obviously taking that into account. Russell finished third, and Antonelli was fighting the Racing Bulls and the other Ferrari, and nowhere near George Russell this weekend. And if we're talking about potential of the car, then we have to say that Kimi was not near to that performance. Yes, he scored a point, but really, like, that's not the Kimi Antonelli that we expect to see.
Yeah, I was umming and ahhing between a 5 and a 6, but you've convinced me there that it is a 5. It's close. He's obviously got a hard-fought point, but you have to look at what his teammates doing, even as a rookie. Antonelli being a rookie when your teammate is in that lead battle is a poor weekend, of course. To go out in the session that he did, but also have the track limits thing, which put him even further down into 15th, is always going to make a race at the Hungaroring very difficult. And unlike Bortoleto, he is one that absolutely needs the summer break, relax more, have a complete reset, and hopefully return to that form that we saw at the start of the season.
We hope so. We want to see a smiling Kimi Antonelli, that's for sure. The fans gave him a 6. George Russell started the race in 4th, finished 3rd.
I have gone for a 9 out of 10 for George Russell. It was a very George Russell race of doing less and getting more, which is, I know, a meme that many people have mentioned about his career, but he delivered a podium finish when, to be... no one was. The McLarens were mighty in the race, of course, and he got that move done on Leclerc eventually, even though there was some questionable wheel-to-wheel racing, of course. But made the move, got the podium, and yes, a good result from George Russell again after, I think, a bit of a tough run himself, and Mercedes looked a little bit off, but it worked out here.
It certainly did. I have gone for a 9 out of 10 for George Russell as well. I think it was a really good weekend from him to get ahead of Lando at the start, and using that presence of mind to then try and get Fernando ahead as well, and sort of that sort of racecraft is brilliant from George, because obviously it worked for a few laps until Lando of course came through. But I think George did a really good job. Nowhere near the McLarens, but from, as you mentioned, Tommy, where Mercedes have been struggling to put it back on the podium. It's a brilliant result from George, and you hear sort of things in the interviews of them going, is this the time now that they'll sign the contracts? Like, it wasn't a breakthrough performance. It's 3rd place. Let's relax.
Tell that to Drive to Survive when they frame a whole episode around the Hungarian Grand Prix and George's podium.
This was the moment they signed him. They knew he was the talent. It's a 9 from me. The fans gave him a 9 as well. Yuki Tsunoda started the race from the pit lane, finished 17th. It's a 3 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I really don't. It's Control C, Control V. He did have damage in the middle of the race, which he said wasn't in his control, but it's not as if he was in any kind of contention. Just running at the back once again, starting from the pit lane. Good luck. There's no chance of you getting through, but the reason he started from the pit lane and took extra parts was because he was out in Q1. So I think we just have to accept this is what's going to happen now for Yuki for probably the rest of the year. He just doesn't have the confidence. We were speaking actually to Alex as well. I know we're kind of touching upon the Alex podcast that we did, but it's literally fresh in my mind from talking to him today, and I find it fascinating talking about the setups and what Alex learnt from Max Verstappen, and how there's basically the car's on a knife edge, and this is clearly something that Yuki can't adapt to as well, and these are the results that we're seeing.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda. I think is incredibly unlucky actually in qualifying to be a 10th and a half off Max, which is the closest he's been in a while, but it's still not good obviously to go out of it, and then you start from the pit lane. You're always going to be in trouble. maybe a bit more of a positive sign, that he had that decent race in Spa and was unlucky, and then had a decent qualifying, but I guess the result obviously didn't look great on paper.
Decent qualifying of 17th is
but to be a tenth and a half off Max, if he does that the next race, I think it's enough that better than we've seen ages. Don't get me wrong, it's not a great result for him, but it's a small positive.
The fans gave Yuki a 3. Max Verstappen started the race in 8th, finished 9th.
This is so difficult because
difficult.
It's very difficult. I'm going to go for a 7 because he was and the strategy didn't work for him, of course. Still not a great race from them. What we've seen from Verstappen, we saw great moves there at the start, and the reason it's so difficult is because you're kind of having to shift your mindset of the Red Bull now and where they are. And I totally understand that some people may want to give Max, even like a 5 out of 10 here and think, oh, it's absolutely, 9th in a Red Bull. That's terrible. But
can see the comments already.
Yeah, I can as well. But it's opinion. And his teammate is 17th, so I can't give him like one higher than his teammate for finishing way higher and qualifying way higher. So really difficult one to grade. I just think that Red Bull was not made for the Hungaroring, and very much you kind of saw a race there where it did feel like that car was just in the midfield, has to be said.
Yeah, we finally saw an example of when Max can't even tame the Red Bull. That's what happens. I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Max. Can't give him any higher than that for a 9th place, and it is a poor weekend. It is a poor weekend. The fact that Max was struggling in the Red Bull, the reason that we grade him so highly usually is because he can figure out a setup with the team that gets that car into a good window. They didn't find it. Yeah, he put some good moves on, but that was down the field on a different strategy coming through on a 2-stop. But that being said, it has to be a 6 out of 10 from me. The fans gave him a 6 as well.
I'm going to change mine to a 6 for Max. You've convinced me. I think I had rose tinted glasses. You said about the moves. I think I was just like enjoyed the moves at the start, but
I bet you did.
I did. It was nice to see people actually
Too
overtaking.
late, Tommy, because they've already commented saying, I can't believe Tom Bellingham's given him a 7. This is ridiculous.
I've changed my mind.
Okay, all right. Tommy's gone for a 6, the same as I have for Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton started the race in 12th, finished 12th. Oh Lord, this one's difficult. This one I had originally written down a 5. Do I lock in a 5 for Lewis Hamilton? Because is it worse? It might well be worse. Is it? Oh, it's so hard. Yeah, it's going to be a 4 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton. Not a good weekend, as we know. A poor qualifying, a poor race as well. Charles Leclerc was literally on pole position and was challenging for the win until tyre pressure gate, or whatever we want to call it, gate. So yeah, a really, really poor weekend from Hamilton, sadly, and then he's stuck in the traffic, stuck in just this horrible situation. But also, you do expect more from Hamilton in this situation where he started 12th. You go, well, he's going to finish in the points. He'll find a way. But he didn't find a way. He literally made no positions up from his qualifying. And he said it himself after qualifying, he's useless. He knows that there's a lot of gains that need to be made here in this rivalry with Charles Leclerc. He's had moments where he's been great and looked on par with Leclerc, but this weekend he was quite a way off it.
I've gone for a 3 for Lewis Hamilton. I think it's bad. In my opinion, it's bad enough for a 3 out of 10 when he himself is saying it's time to replace the driver. He's not had a good weekend. When your teammate's on pole position and you're not even making it into Q3, it's incredibly poor from a driver that we know how good he is. I think arguably one of, if not the biggest kind of gaps between teammates that we've seen. Yeah, like when Leclerc in the race as well, literally Leclerc was fighting for the win at the front, and Hamilton made absolutely no progress at a track he loves. I thought he was going to be the good surprise. It certainly was not the case, and yeah, I hope after the summer break that we see the kind of old Lewis back, because it's not fun to watch.
No, not fun to watch at all. You want to see Hamilton fighting at the front. I certainly do. So yes, not good this time, but maybe the summer break is exactly what he needs. The fans gave him a 4. Charles Leclerc started the race in first, finished 4th.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Charles Leclerc. Another race, has to be said, where there's probably many a drive ratings over the last few years that reads started first and finished 3rd, 4th, 5th. But it doesn't tell the story again. No one asked. Doesn't tell the whole story of kind of what's happened in that race, and it's nothing on him. He did everything he could, but the Ferrari just wasn't able to deliver. He didn't have the machinery at the end of the race. Did what he had to do of fantastic, unbelievable pole position, stayed in the lead, but unfortunately dropped back. It's weirdly almost a 10, but he is also 50 seconds off the lead, and I know that a lot of that is car, but probably downgrade him as well for the way he kind of fought against Russell. There's some frustration there. Normally Leclerc, I think, is one of, if not the best, wheel-to-wheel drivers, but that was very naughty indeed.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10 as well for Charles Leclerc. I'd love to be able to argue a 10, but he nearly shoved George Russell into the turn 1 wall. So didn't like the defensive move that Charles pulled there. Clearly born out of frustration, but that's not you don't say, oh, well, I'll give him a 10 anyway because he's a bit frustrated. Like, that was a mistake, and it was something that could have cost him more, but Alonso was half a decade behind. Apart from that, it was a 10-worthy performance the entire way through the weekend. He got pole marginally, and I said this perhaps in the Quali podcast, looking back to Hamilton and, the whole, oh my God, Charles on pole, Hamilton's down in 12th. If Leclerc had literally been 0.128 of a second slower than he was in qualifying, he would have started 6th, and we probably wouldn't have been speaking about this Ferrari difference much at all. That just shows the fine margins in this sport. But Leclerc was on the right side of those fine margins and did get pole, and then surprised all of us by being really quick in the race as well, until the last stint, which I am now completely convinced was a plank wear issue. Like, there's no doubt in my mind now. It makes so much sense as to why Charles was arguing about the fact of, why didn't you let me manage it? I would have done it a much better way, and this, that, and it. Like, it just feels as though Ferrari were like, risk it for the chocolate biscuit, Charles. We'll be all right. And then the last stint have gone,
we're screwed. Yeah.
Yeah, that plank be wearing, bro. I think we need to put another 10 psi in the Pirellis and raise it off the ground.
Yeah, exactly. They could say all they like in interviews and stuff, and it is very much, it will be opinion, and Ferrari, because Ferrari will never come out and say, this is the reason. It
makes sense, doesn't it, as to how Charles was so quick in the race as well. Like, we didn't expect him to have the race pace, and all of a sudden Ferrari seemed like they were a car that could genuinely challenge McLaren.
And you could see the planks scraping and it kicking up dust all the time and stuff. So
yeah, and as I said in best reactions, they should have just got the W, and then I'd have taken the disqualification on the chin, because I just needed that elation. But sadly, we did not get it. The fans gave Charles Leclerc a 9 as well. Oscar Piastri started the race in second, finished second. I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri. He was on the wrong side of the fine margins, just behind Charles Leclerc in P2. He did everything he needed to do, really, in terms of in the race, and the two-stop that McLaren had decided to go for, which on paper was supposed to be the better strategy. And we'll get on to Lando and his performance, but from Oscar's side, I think it was a really good drive. It was a great drive from both McLaren drivers, and that's why we had such a close finish at the end with two different strategies. But yeah, I think Oscar knew that he'd done pretty much everything he could as well. Positive after the race. But yeah, there's not much to really downgrade Oscar, apart from obviously missing out on pole and not being able to get the lead early on. But apart from that, yeah, it has to be a 9.
Yeah, I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri as well. He had amazing pace, quicker of the McLaren drivers in qualifying by a very, very, very small amount, of course, but did everything right in the race, other than the fact that his teammate took a risk, which we'll talk about later, and it paid off. Despite his amazing pace, I can't give him a 10 because I know it was incredibly hard to pass, but I can't give him a 10, and that would have been reserved for if he had made that move on Lando, even though I can appreciate it was going to be incredibly difficult with how the Hungaroring is. But it's still a great race from Oscar Piastri.
The fans gave Oscar a 9 as well. And finally, Lando Norris started the race in 3rd, finished 1st.
I've gone for a 9 for Lando Norris. It's a really weird situation where I think there's almost in a weird way, like I can't give either of the McLaren drivers a better grade than the other because they had 2 very different races, and it's unfair to say Lando was so lucky and had nothing to be part of because he made that strategy happen. The reason it can't be a 10 is because qualified 3rd, was allowed to he got into that position because he made a poor start, which dropped him back, but then he deserves that credit for then making the strategy happen. So yeah, I could not pick between the 2 McLaren driver grades because they both did very different things and then were basically locked together at the same part of the track at the end.
I have gone for a 9 out of 10 for Lando Norris as well. Complete agreement. The qualified 3rd, very, very close in qualifying, as we know. Didn't have a poor start in the sense of the getaway, and perhaps slightly unfortunate in terms of the car positioning he'd gone for, but at the same time, at the Hungaroring, the cars are going to swing around the outside into turn 1. So car positioning, perhaps if Lando could go back, he would decide to go to the racing line and the outside line rather than sort of being pinched on the inside, which cost him not 1 but 2 positions. So that has to have some effect on his grade. On the flip side of that, phenomenal tyre management from Lando. He pulled off a brilliant race, similar to what Oscar did in Spa. They both have had great tyre management races in the last couple of events. And for Lando, he was not given that race. I will not hear, and I will not agree to even the tiniest amount that McLaren gave him that victory or that they gave him preferential treatment, because they did not. They are 2 teams within McLaren, the Lando team and the Oscar team, fighting for a Drivers' World Championship. The one-stop worked. It wasn't supposed to work, especially with Oscar in clear air on a 2-stop. Mathematically, Oscar's winning that every single day of the week, I think, in a McLaren, in their database. They're not going, okay, who do we prefer this week? It's going to be Lando. And that just is not what happened. Lando did a brilliant job to make that one-stop strategy work, and he deserves his commendation for that. But it's still a 9. 9 is a fantastic grade. Let's not forget that. And also, you agree with us, because the fans gave it a 9, gave Lando a 9, gave the number. I said it as if it's a 9. Gave Lando Norris a 9 out of 10. So who is our P1? Well, it's got to be Bortoletto, isn't it? It's the only 10. No, there's Fernando Alonso as well. Ooh, it's Bortoletto. I'm giving Bortoletto the 10. Fernando Alonso has he's done enough in Formula One. He doesn't need a P1.
He's done all right, hasn't he?
Whereas Bortoletto, I think this will be the first ever P1 I've given to Gabby, and fully deserving. And yeah, can't wait to see what he can do in the second half.
Yeah, definitely. I've gone for Bortoletto as well. Definitely him. I really think, if he can continue this form into the kind of end of the season, what a prospect for Audi to have him on board. And I think this could be the race that we look back on and go, this was where it finally all came together for him, and hopefully it's just a big confidence boost now, because I think he's a really exciting driver that could go really far in F1. So yeah, great job from Bortoleto.
Wonderful stuff. Well, we are done here for the driver ratings for the Hungarian Grand Prix, but don't you worry. Our mid-season driver averages are coming your way very soon.
We won't call the video that.
So look forward to that. What was that?
Mid-season driver averages is not quite the
no, doesn't quite
most
have
exciting
the same
title.
Yeah, mathematical equations of the driver ratings of the P1 podcast. Yeah, we'll come
but that
up with
is indeed what it will be, of course.
Yeah. Exactly. Looking forward to seeing how the drivers stack up after the first 14 races of the season, and whether we have much difference between our grades.
Yeah, that is where this is what I like about this bit of the season, and when we do it at the end as well, because while a lot of the time, people always mention in drive ratings like, oh, you don't disagree much, but it's like, if Bortoleto does well, we're going to give him a 9 or a 10. We're not going to be like, I'm going to give him a 6.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because recency bias goes out the window. It's the entire,
of course,
the first 14 races taken into account, and it might surprise some people because they'll go, how on earth is Bortoleto down in 13th? Well, because it's not been consistent, and we'll talk about that, of course, when we get to it. So thank you, everybody. Tommy, what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are, we've had a little mention of the Alex Albon interview, but yeah, on a high from that today, because it was such a good interview. He gave such good answers. A really lovely guy. Obviously, I missed out on the last interview we did with him because I was away, but glad I could make this one. And yeah, it's a really enjoyed the video, and I think you guys are all going to enjoy it as well. It was really fun to do. You certainly will. You might be thinking, what was the thing you spoke about most? It wasn't Formula 1, it was toilets, and I'll leave you at that. All right, see you soon. Lots of love. Bye. Bye.